Hello again, I'm Lombiq from Lombiq Technologies. Now let's see how you can work with your .NET site in a local development environment. So we created the online site, what's now available on the internet. We created that from .NET, but let's try to set up everything on our local machine so we can actually work with that site. For us to later be able to write some theming code for it to customize the look and feel of it. Now, it's always a good first step to check out the knowledge base. Knowledge base on .NET. We also have a section about theming, specifically this one here. When working with your .NET site, do keep limitations or certain aspects specific to .NET in mind. If you would like to check out those in detail, be sure to take a look at this and this knowledge base page. But we'll focus on theming right now. As you may are aware, Orchard has built-in support for templates in the Liquid templating language. Liquid was originally created by Shopify, and now there are a lot of incarnations of it. With .NET, we use what's built into Orchard. Liquid is a safe but powerful templating language. You can use it on .NET as well as you can to override templates, as well as you can create any kind of client-side asset, so you can use your custom CSS, JavaScript files, graphics, etc. And how you start with that is by following the guidelines of the .NET Core SDK. So let's actually do that. Everything that we covered today is also documented in writing, so if you would like to follow up in that way, don't be afraid to do that. But let me show how you would start with the SDK. The SDK is meant as a jumpstart of a solution or a local development environment for your .NET site. And the first step you need to do is fork it. If you don't use GitHub or you prefer to use some other source hosting service, then you can just clone the repository and push to that one. Otherwise, if you use GitHub, well, just hit fork here. I've actually already done that. So we also have the repository available after this tutorial video, .NET Media Theme Demo. And I have also cloned it on my local machine, so let's work with it. Probably the first step recommended here is for you to create your own branch. So this goes into Git territory, and it depends on your preferences how you would like to utilize the repository. But what we recommend is creating your own custom branch instead of using the default dev one, just so your stuff is separated from updates to the SDK and it's easy to integrate between the two. So I've created a demo dev branch here. The next step would be to take a look at the SDK and see what's in there. If we check out the cloned folder, you will see that it's a pretty usual Orchard core solution. We have a solution file, then the most important folder here is that we have a source folder with the root web project that will be the web application of ours, and we also have a themes folder with a sample. So the solution is named .NET Core SDK, so .NET Core SDK. So let's customize that and let's rename it. Let's call it .NET.Media Theme Demo. Awesome. The next step would be to actually take a look at that and let's see what we can work with. So let me open it. I'm using Visual Studio here, but this is not mandatory. You can work with the .NET SDK under any operating system and with any development environment editor that you prefer, and that works with .NET otherwise. So let's see what we have here. This still looks like a normal Orchard Core solution, and if we start it, well, let's see what happens. Why we are using the SDK and not just any Orchard Core application, or while we haven't created the solution ourselves, because the SDK also contains everything that your .NET site contains. So if you take a look at the packages that this web project references, you will notice that it has a couple of Lombiq specific and third-party ones already available. Those are available to you on .NET, so we recommend to use the SDK. But if you feel adventurous, you can also create your own solution. And once starting the application, I just hit Ctrl F5 as usual. Then we get to the Orchard Core setup screen. Well, that's great, and we could run the blog recipe here as well. But let's take this one step further, and let's utilize the auto setup feature of Orchard. What the auto setup feature allows you is to run the setup right when the application starts. You don't need to manually fill out the setup screen. This is quite useful if you are continuously working on your site, change some content, save it to a recipe, wipe it, then reinstall it. So let's actually do that. So I will close now. This is back to our live application. I will shut down the IIS Express web server here, and let's go back to Visual Studio and configure auto setup. If you are not familiar with auto setup, please check out the Orchard Core documentation. But we have here in the development app settings, we also have some scaffolding for that. As you can see, here we have a sample auto setup configuration. This just uses some defaults, but let's customize it a little bit. So the site name should be Media Theme Demo, as we have in production as well. Well, it could be something nicer, like this. Site time zone, you can customize it. It doesn't matter too much for local development, just as the admin credentials, but we can, of course, use the same. It doesn't matter too much, just as our trusty development password. The database provider, probably the easiest is SQLite. It shouldn't matter too much, but with SQLite, you don't need to set up anything else. It's also very easy to reset your site and your application, because you just need to delete it and your site starts anew. So we don't have to configure the rest of the database connections. And finally, as the recipe name, let's select the blog one. And now that we are done, let's start the application again, and let's see what happens. Auto setup will run the setup if the site is not yet set up on the first request. So we save on having to fill out the setup screen every time. And here it is. This is also quite useful if not just you are working on the site, because then you don't have to share common setup configuration or anything like that. Your other team members just clone the repository, hit Ctrl F5, or otherwise start the application, and they see the same thing as you. So that was for getting our local development environment running on its basics, and we'll continue with actually doing some theming work. Thank you.